the word snake. So they were those of the snake. Now that confused me because when I started researching, I'm like, so if we're the followers of Horus, how come we're the people of the snake? That don't make no sense. So you got your rays coming out of your head, etc., and that's supposed to symbolize the wisdom and the power to rule, etc. Is that it? That's what I thought it was for a long time. And then 2 years ago, well, actually before that, I actually encountered it before that, but 2 years ago I had my first experience receiving snake venom medicine. And that was because I was actually getting rid of the last bit of my fibroid cancer during my camo training. My teacher is a bushmaster from Wales.
Yeah.
And he grew up in Wales, and he also lived in a castle that overlooked the place that held the Holy Grail.
That's my homie right there.
The mystic side of Merlin's family. His lineage goes all the way back. He showed me on Ancestry. Goes all the way back to Lafay. Again, Lafay. And Merlin. Literally.
Wild dude. He a wild dude, Blue.
Now, I didn't get along with him at first.
He a wild dude.
Straight from Lucifer. That's all. But the Lucifer part kind of scared me because he had some dark qualities at times. But then I started to realize that he was reflecting back to me.
Exactly.
So he put me through some crazy stuff. I have some crazy stories about him.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, I will say this though. He taught me by living by example.
It's been a month with him. He's wild.
Who the Shamsu Hor were. Shamsu Hor were the shining ones. The same ones who were linked to Vairocana. Or Vairocana meant the shining ones to the Incan gods were the Vairocana. The followers of Vishnu were the Vairocana. So how did they come together? Well, you know what Inca tradition, what the word Vaira means, is the brave, heroic man. And the word Chana or Concha, which is Vairaconcha, an Incan word, means the man who came from the sea foam. They said that these gods walked up on the water to get to the Incan lands and taught them agriculture. Well, it's funny because the students of Vishnu, or the disciples of Vishnu, called the Vairocana as a woman into an indigenous setting. So let's say those people said, man, you're so cool. So they wrote stories about you. The kids wrote stories about you. They grew up hearing about you. By the time you get to the bottom of it, you were just a person at first. Now you're God. Now you're being worshipped. We gotta remember you, right? That's how a lot of things happen. That's how myths evolved and transformed from being an ancestor to being a deity. The priests took care of the Necharu who were ancestors. The ancestors were not gods until the Egyptologists went and said, okay, we're going to make them into a polytheistic society so we can demonize them in Europe. So we can demonize them in Christianity. Just like all other pagan, heathen religions. But they were Necharu. There are forces and principles within us, but also high ancestors, or high representations of those values, etc. So I'm sure everything's all set. I thought I was only all set for a while. So sorry if you're in this room.
I just want to drop, you mentioned their teacher. If you look at the stories of St. Patrick, he was a real bad man. There's a book called The Serpent and the Goddess by Mary Condren. It shows that those serpents that he was sent to go kill, those are the Formorians. Those are the original Moorish people of Ireland, Scotland, and obviously your teacher and his lineage escaped that. But those Nagas, there were no snakes in Ireland. So the church was hell-bent on anything that was melanated and serpent-like and dealing with Nagas and awakening. They sent out these high-level judgments to hunt them down. But as we can see here, we don't die
Okay. The Dakota people were called Dakota for the snake that slithers in the grass as a slur. Dakota means friend. But then they started calling people the suit or the snake that slithers in the grass. So what's interesting is the Mythians who are occupying the Kurdistan area, or Abraham's people. By the way, Abraham, Rama, whose description is analogous to the Shamsu Hor made by Emery, the serpent priest tradition originates in the Middle East with its foremost center in Kurdistan, about 5000 BC. matriarchal culture of Dharma, represented by the mother goddesses as divinities with faces of vipers and lengthened heads. So, did you guys see that face of the viper and lengthened head that Brother Tom Lane was sharing?
Mm-hmm.
The goddess with the rattlesnake head?
Mm-hmm.
It's all linked together.
Mm.
Malta is a platform, an elevation of the seafloor has shown that it wants to emerge more than once. 35 prehistoric temples distributed on the major two islands, Malta and Gozo, freshly submerged by the sea, which makes one think that it happened there maybe 3,200 to 2,500 BC. Steep reefs falling vertically to the sea, contrarily to the more sloping northern shore from the southern coast of Malta, with dingly cliffs. The island's major axis rotated around on itself, submerging most of the coast that faces Sicily. So I've done maybe 2 or 3 years of research on just this. Atlanta being connected to Malta. You guys want to see the 2 or 3 years worth of research that I have? I actually brought the book. Because what's interesting is that all those skulls that they found in the oldest megalithic temple that also was in Malta, that's also submerged, are in the Vatican basement right now. I think that's really interesting because the median name on the skull suggests that they were working with some other different things. So I'm not going to go into Atlantis because that's not what I want to talk about today. I'm not going to go into crystal technology either right now. I want to tell you guys about a book called The Serpent Grail.
Okay. Okay, let's go in.
Serpent Grail. So I'm going to read this from the laptop since it's not showing up very well on the projector screen. But the reason why it's important is that all of the serpent symbol with the chalice is purposeful. The chalice is to collect the blood. The serpent venom and the blood was the antivenom to the serpent.
Right, facts.
Let's say after 3 days, you got the antivenom to a certain snake running through your veins. You can actually drink regular venom.
Right.
And the antivenom will potentiate it. Or the red chalice will symbolize red carmela, the Syrian brew. And he's actually taught me that the ancient centuries would use the hayoma, or the somaraja, the red carmela, and drink it with the serpent venom. Because the MAOIs in the harmala cause the different enzymes, which are also slightly psychedelic, to pass through the blood-brain barrier completely and gives you the highest grade DMT experience that he's ever experienced in his life.
Where?
So I say all this to introduce what we're going to do. This was just a class that I taught. I've taught this class once before, so I'm not going to bore my students with it. So this is where we're going to. This is where we're going to. When I say this is a program that I've co-created.
Wow.
So that you guys can explore everything that I study on a real-time scale.
Dope.
It's
Dope.
a buckyball, right? So you go ahead and you zoom in.
Awesome.
And you can zoom in some mysticism. The Mosque Tuba, wars between France and the Morai, Sheikh Bait Show, Senegalese ritual incense, Serene Salute, Sub-Saharan African medicines, origins of the stone ape theory, Ifa, Ghanaian metallurgy, Islam in Africa. And a link to all the lessons I've already taught. I've taught 2 years worth of lessons on every single subject. From experience of going and living the system. For Iboga, at Microdose Iboga for 2 years. Worked with several major practitioners from Gabon. I'm just short of going to Gabon to receive an initiation. There's actually a lady here in Atlanta who's the queen of Iboga. I'm supposed to eventually meet. I still need to get her contact so I can meet up with her. But this is stuff I live. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is so you can add to it. Up to 10,000 people can collaborate on this platform. Wow. So if you have something where you're a subject matter expert, or you have first-hand experience, not really believe in experts or masters, but if you've been there, you have something to share, it should be accessible to the community if you have that in your heart to do so. So South Central African plant medicine, going into the Vedas, doshas of the Ayurvedic alchemical process, Hinduism versus Hare Krishnaism, Vimana Pilot Tambra, Kashmiri Shaivism, which they try to erase. the Advantary, the god of Ayurveda, the garden of incantations and incarnation of Vishnu, sacred sites in India. You'll be able to zoom out from there and go into quantum physics that's linked to the human brain. You can zoom out from there even further and go to the rain tree database of plants from Brazil and South America, to the library. You can go into Arrowwood Library of free books on psychedelic use. You can go to Arrowwood free entheogenic section. Arrowwood started. You can go into the Arrowwood Library on online books. Go ahead and open this up so you can see how it works. Because I got about 3 weeks. All these books are free books on psychedelic research.
What?
So you can just access it really quickly. That's how it's going to be. If you want to open a video, you just open the video.
Game changing.
Right,
All
right.
right, so
Facts.
Information.
it's called Workspace. I'm working with the founders. The founders actually live at Stockhead that overlooked the Stonehenge megalithic area for over 650 years. There's only 4 founders of this application. This whole application was created to solve the world's most important plans. If I Google world's most important plans, right now anyone Googles it, Thorpe Space is going to be the first thing that comes up because this was actually taken to the G20 summit for global warming to try and prove to people what's actually going on because you can see the connections between each modality. When you go into ancient cultures, etc. Let me go into Divine Master Alchemy. Boom. I can go into every constellation and every facet of the classes that I teach, and then take you on journeys.
What's
I
it
wanna
called
take you-
again?
Thorpe Space.
Thank you.
So when you take the class, you're not just going to be taking it. I actually didn't email it to myself, but so my computer's dead. We'll plug it in real quick. But I'm going to pull that research up for you to show that they did EEG model on people who inhaled sandalwood, lavender, and lemon oil. And it showed that they had higher propensity to enter those theta states, that childlike state, where we're able to let go of traumas, let go of certain things, etc. What happens when you combine anything that puts your mind into a theta state, whether it's chocolate, cacao, some people can't have cacao. This was in addition to Tom Lane's research. You can use sandalwood in place of cacao, sandalwood oil on your lip, and it'll put your brain into that theta state before you enter your trip, so you can get a lot more out of it. Okay? So, oh, by the way, the samples weren't free. Samples cost about $700. You are going to get your money's worth of paying for the ticket to get here. So if you're not here tomorrow on Monday, give me your address and your address to my inbox, and I'll make sure that I get shipped to you. Okay? All right. If you're here on Monday, you can come together.
That's
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we put it together finally. That has some shod frankincense in it for the land of cook. We do entire classes on the land of cook, etc. Land of cook is where Sunu's trained. You ever heard of Dr. Sunu Valentine? Yeah. Blessing Amy. Well, the word Sunu is an Egyptian word for doctor. Now, the Sunus didn't train in chemistry. They trained further south where the plant medicine came from, in the land of Kut. The land of Kut is the land of Somalia, the land of North Africa, the south of Egypt. And that's where Queen Hatshepsut had her frankincense trees imported in from. So that's the absolute essential oil that you're going to be receiving tomorrow as well.
Queen of Sheba too.
Yes.
That's the Saba land.
Yes. So what's important is to be able to take these sacred substances into your experiences and be able to unlock the same channels that the masters of their time would have utilized. Because if you were a master, you would have access. You would have had all the money in the world to go and buy sandalwood extract when it costs as much as 2 houses and 500 cows in your time period. You had to be a master to access those things. So the information that you get is going to be linked to the masters who had access. And now in this day and age, we have access but no context as to how to use that access. So my job has become, because I would ask Donald Clinton all day long, like, can you tell me how this works? Can you tell me, how do I use sorcery in the multiverse? He'd laugh, just laugh and laugh. He was my really good friend in that way because he wouldn't tell me. He'd be like, just keep going in. If you don't know, then just go deeper. Find out for yourself. And I did. And, you know, one of the things that I remember, I discovered it when I was 17 years old. it correctly. I was so enamored by the fact that he'd say acacia in his lecture. I was like, oh, okay. And I pay attention when he say it too. He'd say acacia is an alchemy. Like there's been a pot before you can make acacia. I was like, oh, maybe an alchemy. Here, I like to just put things together. By the way, as an alchemist, I made quite a few mistakes when I started. So that's why I kept close to the system, close to the medical research, close to the neurochemistry, so now you don't make big mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Giving your friends your hembe as an aphrodisiac, giving them high blood pressure. I remember I gave a man one time, I was like, probably 7 years ago, this aphrodisiac. And his name was Tom. And Tom went to a construction site, and Tom lost his job that day because Tom couldn't get it down.
Damn. Walking around with the Woody.
That's a strong aphrodisiac.
Yeah. And that's some of the experiences
She's like, what you give him?
What is you like that?
Smashing for days. Okay.
Yohimbe bark, Damiana, sassafras, CBD, pepperine, and deer antler velvet. Okay? So I had to learn how to balance the fiery elements. It was all fire. No earth, no water, no air. It was all fire. And it just lit his shit up. So yeah, you know, I want you guys to all be able to use this. It's going to be available in its full version on November 27th, the day that Divine Master Alchemy, the initiates section begins on November 27th. I say the initiates because you're not my initiate. I'm not initiating you. You're initiating yourself. My job is to just give you access and connections to the proper passages, but through people like Tom Lane, through people like the authors of the Serpent Grail, to give you a map, so you've got structure. So when you walk a path, you don't have to necessarily look 7 different places to find all the components to that path. You have the entheogenic guardrails, I guess you would say, to help guide you in that realm. It's acceptable. It's not only acceptable, it's one of the most ancient ways that people were self-initiated and self-actualizing. Okay? All right, anyone have any questions? I'm not done yet, so if you got any questions, you can go ahead. I just want to show you guys that real quick.
We have one question right here in the middle.
Casey.
Yes.
So, how we know each, so I know we have the label. How does each label represent each planet?
So it doesn't actually represent each planet. It represents a place on the planet where that item came from. So you see a icon of Africa,
Okay.
and there's a little label. That's something from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. That is.
Yes. There's over 300 different types of gel. So if you want the iron body gel or the golden lotus gel. Okay, so if you want iron body gel, some of the basic components of the gel are actually frankincense, dragon's blood, dragon bone, eucomia, holly gala. Yeah, eucomia is what they use for the iron bone, not iron bone, but iron body, because it makes the tendons hard to shave bone. So when I train in the forest, my arms get really tiny, don't they?
Yeah, they were real.
So about a year ago, all I was doing every day was feeding.
Yeah, that muscle.
Somebody could punch me really hard and I'll never bruise. Because my tendons never went away. I've lost a ton of weight, I've lost muscle mass, but my tendons are hard. So I can strike something, and like I do practice martial arts. I don't practice any specific kind, like African martial arts or Shaolin martial arts or whatever. I practice entheogenic martial arts. I take the mushroom on 9 grams and I let it do what it wants to do to my body.
Right.
So if the
Body
mushroom
just
says,
start
okay,
moving.
well, practice your low line. I'm like, get those cat-like reflexes, start to shape-shift and fly-like. Now get down. And I'll practice like that until I get tired. Or until I get hungry, I get distracted. So. Hungry doing that shit. Alright, so I got some links. I opened up to teach you about snake venom medicine. A lot of you guys think this is just esoteric stuff. There's a lot of research. Thousands and thousands of files of research. But you guys gotta learn to research. So to teach you guys how to research, because I know you guys, a lot of you didn't go to fancy school like SMU or whatever, where they waste your time teaching you useless things. So I have an area in here that's medical research. You'll click on medical research and get an entire guide as to how to cross-reference multiple sources with plant medicine.
Wow.
Every research bank for free that you can access on the internet.
What?
You get free medical research, ResearchGate accounts. If you need access to a university resource, I have a university email address, and I will give you access to the account.
Wow.
There are no more paywalls.
Woo! Bong bong. Bong 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 bong.
I also have a basic course on neurochemistry for psychonauts. A lot of you guys are wondering what's happening to my brain. So I am not an MD. Have your patients consult their MD if they present any severe red flags. Thank you. I help teach a class for Encourage Facilitator course. This is something that you're going to get from me, which is the thought-based version. What makes a good candidate to take psychedelics if you're trip sitting for someone? Red flags, the brain and what it needs to make you feel healthy and well-adjusted. How to pay attention to your mental health. Your brain on psilocybin. Frontiers, 5-HT2A receptors in memory and cognition. Neuroplasticity in the mushroom. The 9 essential amino acids are histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, theanine, tryptophan, and valine. Alright? We'll learn all about tryptophan. And follow the stories. And watch how it breaks down to the happy molecule. And a happy molecule eventually makes DMT endogenous in the body. So of course you should pay attention to your tryptophan intake. Because why not? Why not have more access?
Exactly.
Yes, sir. I love that.
I know, that's right.
Yeah, man.
Alright, so quickly I'm going to go over the medical research on Acacea. Acacea is the molecule cobra. The molecule cobra was featured in ancient chemistry.
Yeah, that cobra ain't no joke.
The molecule cobra also works on the medulla oblongata and the brain. You'll notice that the pharaoh's heads were elongated, but if you were to just minimize, if I were to take a scalpel, can I do this, people? And just kind of cut in at a 45-degree angle into his brother's neck right here, it would appear that he had an elongated skull now, wouldn't it? Well, that's the medulla oblongata. So when you minimize the amount of neurological noise in the medulla oblongata, you stop being an overly emotional, overly triggered person.
Right.
Excuse my language. And I know that hit me really hard when I started realizing that my medulla oblongata was overreactive, so therefore my work was hyperactive. My internal work, the amount of thoughts that I would have to brush away, etc., my distractedness, my ADHD was all connected to my medulla oblongata, and I was also connected to the bacteria that was in my brain, the candida yeast, etc. And it caused my brain to become more foggy. Alright? Alright, so the anti-inflammatory and immunoregulatory actions in vivo. So basically it shows that it may induce innate and humoral immune responses while suppressing T lymphocytes mediated cellular immunity. Alright, so this is for your immunity as well as the whole nervous system. You can read all about it. These links are all included. Shows that also works on the skeletal muscles. Demonstrated that it also possesses potent nociceptive activities. So the nociceptronic process is a process in the brain that stores trauma. I learned this from Cambo medicine. It also has anti-nociceptronic processes. The word is so fucking, excuse me, the word sound like Megatron, don't it? Well, it's interesting because the nociception process is how your brain processes and stores trauma. So if you go through something in your mind, or you go through something in real life, let's say you get hit by a car in a red truck with big wheels. Every time you see a red truck with big wheels, your body's going to go into fight or flight mode because your body didn't forget. So you've got hit the nociception process with a signal that wipes out the nociception process that causes dopamine to turn into cortisol. That dopamine to turn into, basically the good feeling hormones. So you're giving your brain a second chance to respond to trauma by resetting the nociception process.
Deep.
And anti-cancer activities. And that's what the cardiotoxin does. When people hear toxin, they think, oh, it's poison. Well, what a cardiotoxin actually does at the right dose, etc., has biological activities, including the depolarization of membranes and impairment of the skeletal muscles. Right?
Break it down, Casey. Go on
So
now.
essentially, when you're looking at the way that it works, you've got extreme anti-cancer, you've got extreme trauma response activities, you've got anti-inflammatory activities, to the point that they said, let me make sure I got the right article up, that it's multifunctional, therapeutic, from pain to hemorrhage and necrosis. So multifunctional toxins. Basically,
You
those
took
will
that
stay
today.
on the outside of the surface of the skin, but the therapeutic implications can also cure the same things that they can cause. So therapeutic implications, if you got pain or hemorrhage or necrosis, you can use it as a therapy, as well. When you go in, it talks about how animal venoms have evolved to cure their prey before they kill their prey. So the snake doesn't want to eat a sick animal. It just want to cure that animal from cancer before it eats it because it cannot handle the viral load of a sick animal. It cannot digest that from its stomach acid.
Science is
So
deep.
it cures its prey, has its compassion. They say a snake's the most cold-blooded creature, it has no compassion. It developed and evolved compassion through its venom.
My dude.
Serpent rail, I want you to write this down.
My dude.
It's going to tell you the history of every civilization that's ever worked with serpent medicine. It's $9.99. I got it for our students for free, and we've gone over this book several times. It shows you every serious metaphysical, ancient, religious system from King Arthur's table all the way to the queens of Egypt that worked with snake venom. And the proof of it, and the research of it. So please download the book.
Say it again.
So, in 2019, they published an article in APS. And this is what the article said. Here, I'm going to let it load. Cobratoxin can be an effective therapeutic for COVID-19.
Say it again.
Pharmacological Seneca.
The Cobra
APS.
deals with the COVID.
Yes, please. All right. Give me 1 second. Thank you. All right, so APS. Cobratoxin could be an effective therapeutic for COVID-19. Now, this is the pharmacy journal. So when you're in pre-med, at a pre-med in college, you got to pull from this same journal to graduate college. So, they said novel coronavirus will cause systemic inflammation dealing with multiple organ failures. Cobra venom has been used as traditional folk medicine for the treatment of multiple illnesses and comprises of 62 amino acids and resides with a molecular weight of 7 kDa. It has nicotinic acetylcholine receptors that it hits, and it also has analgesic, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, immunoregulatory, and anti-tumor activities. So why do you think I'm working with patients sick to death in Mexico, and I'm standing here, and I'm just fine. My neck was twice as thick. I don't even know if you look at my
I remember that.
My neck was twice as thick when I went to Mexico.
Right.
I'm also working with Brother Baco over here to
Yep.
cure his lymphoma.
Yep. Yep.
Because
Facts.
I had the beginning aspects of it, and I had to figure out which snake
Yeah.
venom had produced the venom to specifically attach
Right.
and attack
Right.
different lymphatic responses,
Right.
like the precursors to cancer in my lymph nodes.
Right. Oh, it's
So now
dead
don't
blue.
have any lumps
I
on
felt
my
it.
neck.
I felt it on
And I've
the
had
neck.
this
She
since I
don't
was
have
6
it no
years
more.
old.
Yep.
A form of Bartholomews tumor this large, covering up my genital cavity. So I've had to go through a lot of different healing work over the years. The only reason I share this kind of stuff is because it actually works. And it's so hard to find because they want it to be hard to find. When I say they, I'm openly talking about different medical associations that are paying researchers to hide their research, so the pharmaceutical companies who can't make any money off of it yet because the human trials, people are too afraid or whatever, the human trials took place 7,000 years ago. we got the cold hard research to prove that. I've been in human trials for the last 2.5 years, and guess what? My life has only gotten better. So when it comes down to it, I'm only sharing this with you because I feel like the only way for us to walk as the ancients did is to reprogram our vessels to walk like the ancients walked.
Right.
And the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we're able to evolve our DNA.
True.
After 3 days of working with a snake gun, it's going to bind to your DNA. It's going to change my DNA level over the next 6 months.
Facts.
So you're going to be producing anti-venom
Facts.
in your body. So if you got bit by any one of these snakes, you wouldn't get sick. Right. Yep, and it'll attract them to you because you carry the spirit of it within your body. It's
Facts.
living medicine.
Facts.
So then it's able to communicate with other snakes through your body.
Facts.
Because you're able to step into the consciousness of the snake and enter the gnosis state where you are the shining light one. Where you are the Shemsu Hor. Where you are stepping into the consciousness of the snake and then you are riding the Kundalini wave all the way out and through your forehead. And you can look up over and see people and see their energy, etc. Because that's what the array symbolizes. It doesn't just symbolize wisdom and power. It symbolizes that old otherworldly sight and the ability to spit fire from the goddess Wajet upon your enemies. Wow. So that's a purifying, sacred, holy fire. So you're not even harming them. You are blessing them with that fire.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, does anyone have any questions?
Where do I sign?
Yeah, when is your next
Yes. Yes.
The wood that you said that was equated to ayahuasca in America?
Mimosa hostility?
Mimosa.
Is that it? I don't know.
Yeah, there's ayahuasca where in North America, but it's in Mexico.
Yeah, mimosa.
In class, wasn't the one that was up by us too though?
No.
Okay, so we
There are DMT-contained plants in here, but they're not equated to ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is ayahuasca. It's going to have a different name. Even Mimosa hostility is
maybe that's
ayahuasca.
the question of
My ayahuasca.
maybe that's the question of that.
Yeah, there are many different plants. There's Psychotria viridis, there's Chacuna. Yes, there's, you can go across the map. I'll listen to you. No worries. Yes.
Let's see if I have it.
So you have the book that you started with talking about Pambo and Volga. You worked on it 60 years.
And we're done it by myself.
Oh. Okay. But how would you update it now or talk about the relationship with using snake venom?
I wouldn't update it because it's the Kim technique. Stand up for my wife. It's a Camboy yoga and mushroom technique. And that's how, we started working with Camboy yoga and mushrooms together. But we stopped about 1.5 years before she passed away. The bone viper venom cured her heart disease, but her heart disease was very advanced. That means she probably already had it before I even knew her. So I wouldn't update it. This is 34 pages, and I don't feel like you guys should have to read an entire filler book just to get answers. I like to be direct to the point. I don't care that it's short. I care that it's the real fact.
Right.
The only thing I might add is that for Iboga, don't weight your dose. Start off by chewing the tiniest part and space that out for a few weeks before you start weighing your dose. So I don't think that you need to weigh your dose to feel Iboga.
Oh, this is a follow-up, not so much with updating the book, but what you advise would be more suited for working with venom as opposed to working with
That's a separate system altogether. When I say separate system, I don't recommend including Iboga with snake venom. Iboga is included with Cambo because of Sananga. Because there's already Iboga in the original system of the Mat Says people who taught my teacher and taught me how to use Cambo medicine. That's the only reason I made the link between Iboga and Sananga, because I spoke to the Sananga spirit and my teacher was using Iboga at that time, having been initiated in Gabon, to tell me that I could use Iboga with Cambo. That's the only reason I created that system. It's because my teachers put it forth that way.
Tsunami star drop
It's a little bit
trees.
different. That's the
Let
system.
you out. Your eyes and shit.
So how
Got
long
Iboga in it.
you have snake venom in blood or whatever? Can I not deal with Ebola right now, or should it?
No, it's safe. It's completely safe.
Okay.
It's just not the same system. You're not going to be able to trip with Iboga necessarily. Like Cambo and Iboga are tripped together. It's an entheogen together. So snake venom doesn't cause the nausea. You
Right.
don't go into that trance-like state
Right.
that's related to the nausea as far as purging. Iboga and snake medicine may go together, but I've been fasting off Iboga. I've been off of Iboga for about 8 months because I reached the end. I reached my ceremony point. Yeah. So you can try it, and then you can add to the collaboration and tell us what happens as a benefit, because it's not going to interact negatively with it. Yeah, it's just proteins. You have high-low proteins, and you have different chains, basically different anti-inflammatory processes, different anti-tumor processes. So that's not going to be negative with your entheogens. Now, I will say this: if you take mushrooms, you're going to see snakes everywhere.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna see
Yes, I've experienced that one. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So you're gonna be able
Yep.
to come to the
I was
snake,
seeing all them
come
joints.
project, move through time and space with that dexterity. Learn the snake martial arts. You want to be able to
Snake style.
experience it because you have the technology that was designed for that initiation in your blood. Okay? Yes. Go ahead.
I just wanted to offer some books to reference in line with exactly what you're talking about. Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Narby. Definitely, if you're on this path, should have.
That's a good book.
And then just something else, I teach Kabbalistic astrology and Celtic astrology. And this book by Helena Patterson, Celtic Astrology, it speaks on the Four Moors, which are the Moorish people of Ireland and Scotland. And each month there was a different tree, and each tree had a different medicine. An example is Sister Acacea, born April 7th. I'm doing her chart right now. She's the elder tree. And that elder tree had specific properties to pull in nitrogen out of the atmosphere, and it would stuff it inside of its roots for all the trees around it. So if you had oak trees and birch trees and other trees, so her personality is someone that gathers information from the ethers, like that elder tree, brings it down, holds it inside the roots, and then shares that with all the trees around it.
That's dope.
So each one of us have a different tree that our Moorish ancestors worked with. We had different boats that we came over and that we sailed to. It was like we were the Uber drivers of the world. Spanish Armada. And so when you get into those characteristics of the tree that you're connected to, you start to find all kind of synchronicities.
What was that called again, brother?
It's called Celtic Astrology by Helena Patterson. And the other book is Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Narby. You can get that on Audible. If y'all get at me, I can send you a free text and you can get that as your first free book for Audible.
Yeah, but I think I got that one.
Yeah. Cosmic Serpent.
Yes.
Gratitude, Rashid there. I just wanted to ask, during the lecture we spoke a lot about the Buddhas and the Buddha lands and the practices of the Tathagata, and we understand that Baba teaches us about the triple darkness and the triple black. So I'm wondering, could you touch on and make the connection between some of the
Formlessness.
second?
Formlessness.
Like your shirt, brother, like your shirt.
So the concept of there being everything, that's why we call the Pure Lands, but they are not Pure Lands. That's why we call the Tathagata a Tathagata, but it's not a Tathagata. Diamond Cutter Vajra Sutra is going to show you the emptiness inside that fullness. You gotta go all the way down to the Planck length level to even access the Pure Lands. You gotta go through the quote unquote UI. In order to enter the Pure Lands, because they're on the subparticle dimensions. They're empty. They contain nothing, but they contain literally everything at the same time. They're non-dual.
Allah.
Wow.
I was wondering,
Ant-Man stuff.
on the solar connection between the cultures in the Middle Americas and South Americas with the entheogens and the substances and their prominence with solar practices and sun worship, and how that ties in with the solar practices and the sun worship of the Buddhas and so on and so forth.
That's really off topic, but I look. Sun worship is one of those things where you enter the sun to enter the macroverse. You enter the moon to enter the macroverse. So you'll see a lot of these cultures going into the macro realms or the cosmos as being within them completely, like the macrocosmos. Instead of going into the femto, you're going into the macro by going out through the sun and experiencing the cosmos as experienced within you. So